For a open series nav task, you are usually presented with a chart with some lines drawn on it and some photographs to identify, just like these ones here. Let's have a closer look at the chart. You can see a line here, we've got a start point, curved line down to there, another curve running up further north, and then straight lines returning us back to FP, our finish point. Alright, let's have a closer look at it. We need to get a bit more information out so we can plan roughly how long this is going to take and how much fuel we need, etc. So measure off the lines, just roughly at this point really, so that you know roughly how long you're going to be. Straight lines easy, obviously. Curved lines you can do with a bit of string, like this, and you can just lay that on the ruler to get an idea of how long it'll take. We also think it's a good idea to have an initial heading for each of the legs so that you've got something to aim for, because you won't necessarily have an object on the horizon to aim for when you make a turn. So get a protractor, either a proper aviation one like this or just a piece of paper photocopied like this to give you an idea of what the heading will be. Turn it around the right way, okay, and so that gives us a direction to travel in when we make each of the turns. We can note all this down on a piece of paper. Most important one is the start point, because if we can't sort that out, then we'll never get very far at all. Once you've done all this, popped it on a bit of paper, you should end up with something that looks a bit like this. So we can see we've got roughly 50 miles to do on this task. It's pretty short. Most tasks would probably be a little bit longer than this, but this gives us some idea. So we can either write this information on the chart direct, or we can use a piece of paper as I've done and stick that to the chart. Right, let's have a closer look at the actual turn points. Start points are the most important, because we definitely need to find that. So quick sort of zoom in on that, and we can kind of see that that looks like a road going over top of a railway line. So we probably find that, but we need to focus on that for a little while to make sure we know how to get to it from where we are and which direction we need to travel once we've passed over it. Look at all the other turn points in the same sort of way. This looks to be like a railway station, so we're looking to turn in the middle of a platform on the railway station. Go around and do all the others in the same way, and then we've got some idea of what we need to do at each turn point. Right, let's have a look at the photos that go with this task. This was just a practice task. These photographs are not particularly easy to see because they're printed with not very much contrast on my printer, but they're good enough for what we need to do really. So we need to look at these on the ground and get as much information out of them as we can before we set off and go flying. So let's look at the first one in a bit more detail. So what can we see on here that helps us? It's usually a good idea to pick out 1 or 2 or 3 features and then focus on those. See, we've got a bend in the road here, got a little lake that should stand out from the sky easily, and then we've also got this barn at the top with the interesting skylights. So looking at that a bit closer, you can see there's offset skylights there, so that should be fairly unique. So I'm hoping we'll be able to see those and not confuse them with another barn. That lake looks pretty good. You can see there's like a fence around it and some small trees growing as well. But I think that the barn looks pretty good. So we'll make a note, we'll describe that in a couple of words next to the photo on the photo sheet, so that we've got something to refer to when we're flying. It's also very useful to give them names when you're 2 crew, so that you can both be talking about the same photograph. Here they are, all on a map board, some scrappy notes around the edges, and there's the chart on my rotating board. The idea of the rotating board is just so you can fly track up all the time, so whatever's on the left on the chart is on the left on the ground. It tends to make it easier, certainly does for me. So you can see the track line, turn the board, follow the track line, and turn again for the next leg. When you do find a photograph, you'll need to mark it off on the chart. So you need a pen of some sort, and in a flex wing obviously it needs to be attached to something because you don't want that going over the side really. That's not a particularly good pen, but it's the pen I was using at the time. It's got to be tied on. Right, so let's see what happens when we go out flying. So here's me flying along on this task with my finger on the chart, working out where I am. And I tend to keep my finger on the chart whenever it's safe to do so, so that I don't have to keep finding myself on the chart. Now, if you look in the bottom of the image, you can see our photo that we've just looked at coming into view. See the lake there, bend in the road, and there's the barns. So that's all good. We've spotted that, so we just now need to mark that on the chart in exactly the right position. Once we've done that, and it's usually a good idea to scrub out the image on the photo page so you don't keep looking at the same one over again. We've now only got another 7 to find, and then we finish the task. Okay, and that concludes this very brief introduction on how to tackle a Open Series nav task. I hope you found it useful.